It is said that in the year 500 BC, there was a pharaoh named Psamtik I who would lie awake in his chambers at night, feeling the tug of gravity in the moon, and that he would paw at the tissues of his throat and marvel at the hum that would escape him as he gave names to each of the constellations. You see, Psamtik was a man of wonder, the kind of man who would hold his hands heavy with thoughts of what galaxies lay beneath this current of skin. At night, in lieu of sleeping, he would imagine his body cut lengthwise to reveal this beating mystery and all the clusters he already had coordinates for. But this pharaoh still felt small. In the face of the spaces he still knew nothing of, for nowhere could he point and hum the words, it is here, right here, my people, that we find language. It is said that one morning he slipped 3 coins and the first sentence of a history lesson into the pockets of 4 deaf-mute servants and sent them into the mountains with 2 twin infants in tow. The pharaoh wanted to see what would become of the tongues of these toddlers. What language would they find amidst the dust in their voice box and the raw quiet of their cave? What words would their mouths take the shapes of if no alphabet were put there first? Years went by. When those children were finally brought before him, the cities stood still. The palace walls leaned inwards to listen closer. The crowds craned their necks to see what would tumble from those chapped lips. It is said that one of the boys mumbled a word the pharaoh heard to be Beshos. This was the Phrygian word for bread. And there was silence. And the crowds dispersed, a little disappointed. They had been hoping for some symbol of the gods, some indication of divinity, not for the mundane edges of bread. Hearing Beshos did little more for the pharaoh. In the spaces he had hoped to fill with answers, he only found he had more questions, and he wondered then, what word had he been hoping to hear? And I think I know this feeling. I imagine how his throat must have felt that night, after the merchants had left his platforms bare and his city lay empty like the caves at its borders, how the tissues might have felt quiet for the very first time. Not unlike the throats of newly returned toddlers on the mats of his palace, because I lie awake some nights, soft angled elbows at curtains. I listen to the discreet sound of the light changing behind the trees. I run a finger over the galaxies I have never tried to understand, but have lived with anyway. I try and imagine if my vocal cords were elastic bands, if I wrapped them like tension between us, wind them around your clavicle, would your tug be the reason my voice rings through the both of us? How much do I need you to know where my words come from? Because these early theories tell us that language is half the stars and tissues that lie within us, and half the mimicry of each other's light. So if we didn't have each other, would we stand like toddlers, sketching alphabets into scattered rocks, pulling crumbs of divine words from the cave walls, contented in our silence, thinking sound this distant myth, and our quiet the noise of gods? Or would we be shamed infants, standing at the foot of a crowd, pushed to thinking there are deities waiting beneath the stretch of skin? Would we then paw at the tissues for our chance to make an entire city stand still with our single word?